Okay, so before we start on the starter, I'm just going to preheat the oven. So once we're finished with the starter, the oven will be ready for to take the tofu and won't have to wait around for it to heat up. So I'm going to set it to 180, and then we'll just, like I said, give it some time to heat up. Now, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to get a sort of bain-marie slash water bath on the stove. So I've just got a normal pot and I've half filled it with cold water. I'm going to put it on the hob, bring it up to a quick boil and then turn it down so it's not simmering, it's just staying warm, and that's going to be used to heat up the Gemsong sauce. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've got everything out of the bags. So I've got the parsnips, so these in a bowl. So these have been dehydrated and then rehydrated. It sort of leads them to have a bit of a jerky texture, or like an al dente chew, I like to call it. I've got the carrot kimchi dressing. So this is carrot kimchi that we fermented for 14 days, blitzed up. And then in there you've got sake, mirin, soy sauce and lime, so it's going to add a lot of freshness. I've also got the roasted and chopped peanuts ready to go. The spring onions, they're out. I've got the apple and then the little herbs that I've given you. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to cut the apple. Apple's one of those things that you can't pre-cut, so unfortunately that's going to have to be on you. So I find the best way to cut apples, any sort of fruit, you need a sharp knife. If you don't have a sharp knife, you can use a little serrated one. Luckily I have a sharp knife, so the best thing to do is pop it down on the board and then just cut a cheek off the apple off. And you're only going to need sort of one cheek per person. So once you've got something like that, I'm going to cut it bang in the centre and then turn it up, and then I'm just going to cut into about 3 even chunks, and then the same the other way. So we're going to get a nice dice going on here, and I'm going to fold the dice through the parsnip salad. Cool, so once you've got like that, we're going to chuck that straight in there. We'll give it a mix in a minute. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some matchsticks. So these are going to be used for presentation at the end. So again, just bring it down, straighten it up, and then you want to take a really thin couple slices. Once you've got your thin slices, put them back together again, and then we're going to matchstick it. So again, just trying to keep them nice and even. Put them around and just chop the bottom off, and then you end up with something that should look like that. So nice thin little matchsticks which we can use for presentation. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of the peanuts through. So I'm going to put probably about half of them in the salad, and then the other half I'm just going to use to sort of garnish it once it's on. So good dollop. Give it a nice little mix around. Grab a few of the spring onions. They can go in as well. So the whole idea of this salad is going to be super fresh. Really sort of get the sort of weight of your palate up to the menu. Next thing, before I dress it, I'm just going to get a little bit of the kimchi dressing on the side of the plate. There's multiple ways to do this. If you want, you can just put a dollop on the side. So obviously I really like the dressing, so I'm going to put quite a lot on. So I'm going to do a couple lines. If you don't feel comfortable doing the lines, you can almost just do a little scoop and plop. But I'll show you how to do the lines. So the best thing to do, make sure the back of the spoon's nice and clean. Grab about 1/4 of a spoon's worth. And this is quite wet, so it will come out quite quickly. And then I'm just going to put it onto the plate, let it pour out just a little bit, and then drag. We'll do one more. So again, I'm going to go slightly less this time, so there's a bit of a different vibe going on. So again, just pour it on, let it come off the spoon, and then drag. You end up with something that looks a little bit like that. So now I'm going to dress the salad. So you're going to need a little pinch of salt and then the dressing. So just a little bit at a time, and then just make sure you keep adding, tasting, until you get a balance that you're happy with. Obviously the dressing is going to be a little bit spicy, and obviously you're going to get those sort of fermented notes coming through. So now that that's ready, I'm happy with the flavour of that. I'm gonna aim for just a nice line next to the two lines. So when you look at the plate, everything's going to be sort of parallel, and it's going to look quite striking. So I'm just going to start dressing a little bit at a time. Just take a spoon out. And go across. You don't want to try and chuck it all on in one go, otherwise you're just going to end up with a sort of lump on the side. You're not going to get like different layers of texture coming through. Cool. Once you're happy with the amount, you can just sort of neaten up the edges. So obviously with the parsnips, they're going to slightly fall over and they're going to come through. I want everything to look quite neat, so I'm just going to take a couple minutes straightening everything up. Okay, so once you're happy with the way it's looking, we can start really to refine the presentation. So you'll notice I've kept a few spring onions back. We've got our apple to go on. We've got a few peanuts. And then we've got a few petals and a little bit of coriander. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a little bit of coriander, a little bit of green. The green's going to clash with the oranges and the whites on the plate already. So I'm just going to pick my coriander down. They normally come a bit like 3-leaf clovers. So I'm just going to pick it down into single ones. And I'm just going to dot little bits around. Next I'm going to use some of my spring onions to get a nice little bit of height. So like I say in most of my videos, the key to sort of plating and making things look good is having different angles and different layers of height. So now I'm just putting some apple on there. Again, trying to get as much height as possible. I'm just going to keep adding between the apple, the spring onions, the coriander, the peanuts and the petals until I'm happy with the end sort of look. Alright, so once you're finished, just take a step back, have a little look, make sure you're 100% happy with it, and then yeah, just dig in. So here's my parsnip jerky salad, carrot kimchi, peanuts, apple and coriander. Okay, so for your tofu main course, obviously we've got the Gemsom sauce heating up behind. We need to fry off the tofu, and then we're going to get it nice and crispy, and then we're going to finish it off in the oven just to warm through. But before that, like always, it's all about preparation. So I've got everything out for containers. I've got my chili, my shallot, my spring onion, got my herbs ready to go, and I'm just going to get the coconut out. So you can see this is freshly grated coconut. Freshly grated coconut has a tendency to go off really quickly. So the key with looking after it is to vac pack it really tight. But that does mean when you take it out of the bag, you end up with a lump like this. So the best way to go about sort of getting it back is you need to fluff it up with your hands. So just take it apart and then just gently start fluffing it up, sort of pushing it apart. You don't want to do it too hard because you'll break the nice long strands, and the nice long strands is what's going to give us the height later. So yeah, cool, just run your fingers through it and make sure you've got no massive lumps. And there you go. Yeah, so I'm going to just get the sambal, the coconut sambal all sorted out. So then when we come back, it's ready to it's ready to go on the plate. So yeah, what the first thing I'm going to do, put some of the shallots in, the spring onions, and then a decent amount of chili. And then give it a nice mix. And now I'm going to hit it with the mint. So the coriander, like I said earlier, I'm just going to break into cloves. And the mint, I'm just going to tear it down. You can use a knife, but unless you've got a very sharp one, mint is just going to bruise. It's a bit like, basil's just going to bruise. Just get that all in there. Give it a nice mix around. little pinch of salt. And then just give it a nice little taste. Yeah, so you want it to be fresh, a little bit spicy, and then you want that raw onion to come through. So the idea is that the sauce is going to be super rich, it's going to cut through a little bit, but it's also going to balance out the dish. So now that I'm happy with that, I'm going to start the tofu. Right, so I've got my pan heating up. I'm using an oven-proof pan, just so we can finish it off in the oven. I have to use a tray, but if you don't have one, you've got one with a rubber handle, you can just pop it on the tray to go through the oven. So it's just heating up slowly, and I've got quite a decent amount of oil in there. The idea is that you're going to sort of semi-shallow fry it at the beginning. If you have a deep fat fryer or something like that, you can use that as well. And even if you don't want to use that much oil, yeah, don't feel like you have to. You can use a little bit. I just find when you're frying something that's been paneed, it's a lot easier to break the surface down if you don't use enough oil. So just going to let that get warm, and then we're going to put it in. We're going to colour one side, and then we're just going to keep rolling until we've coloured all sides, and then we'll do the top and the bottom, and then once we've coloured the whole thing, we'll put it in the oven for about 3 minutes just to heat through, and that will give us time to start dressing the sambal. Alright, so when the oil's hot, yeah, you can get your tofu in. Just a quick little note, when I'm working with hot oil, it's always best to place the objects away from you. The reason being, like a lot of people, they'll put it in the pan, drop it like that, and you get sprayed by hot oil. So the key is just put it in, and then gently away from you, drop it down. And now with this, we're probably going to colour each side for about 1 to 2 minutes. But the key is not to move it too much. The more you move it, the more chance you have of those panko crumbs falling off. So we are, like I said earlier, 1 to 2 minutes either side, just slowly rolling it, and then the top and the bottom. Just really careful when you do the top and the bottom that it doesn't fall over. Use a spatula to hold it or a spoon to hold it, because if it does fall and there's a lot of oil in there, yeah, you could hurt yourself. Alright, so it's been in the pan for about 3 minutes, and now I'm just going to finish it off in the oven. So you're going for like a nice dark golden brown colour all the way around. And it's going to go in the oven for about 3 minutes, or until we've just finished plating the salad. Yeah, so onto the salad. Yeah, so we're going to basically make a platform for the tofu to sit on in the centre of the plate, and then we're going to put the gemsong sauce around the outside. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the sambal out, because I'm going to place that on top of the tofu at the end. It's just going to give you that final layer of height. And then yeah, just going to make a nice platform for it to sit on. Just remember that you don't want to have a pyramid, otherwise it has a chance to fall off. So make sure you've got a nice flat top. If you're happy with the coconut sambal, I'm just going to get the gemsong sauce into like a sauce jug. So the best way to open these sort of bags is hang it over the side of your board or the side of the bench, and this is just going to make sure it doesn't sort of spew out all in once you open it. Snip the top off, and then yeah, just pour straight in. So that tofu is going to be ready now. It's been in there for about 3 minutes. I'm just going to take it out and finish off plating. Yes, I've just placed the sauce, sorry, the tofu straight in the middle, and then a little bit more of the sambal just on top. I'm going to grab a few more of the coriander leaves. A couple more chilies. So like I said earlier, it's all about height and contrast. So the red, the white, the red sauce, sorry, the orange sauce, and then the green coriander are all going to sort of clash with each other to make a more striking plate. Once you're happy, just take a step back, and there you have it. A crispy marinated tofu, coconut sambal, and a gemsong sauce. Enjoy. Alright, cool. So on to the dessert. First thing I'm going to do is just going to get everything out of the bags. So I've got an array of different containers, 2 small ones, 1 medium and then 1 large. I'm going to take out the hazelnut crumble first. So simply just cut the top off. Make sure you have a little bin next to you. I'm going to pop that in the medium sized container. The beetroot salsa, so again, because it's got a little bit of liquid, just hold it over the edge of your board, cut the top off, and that's going to go in one of the small ones. Do make sure you get all of that one out. It has a tendency to stick to the sides. Ooh. The coffee syrup. So again, like I said, I'm just going to take a little corner off this time, so it doesn't just start spraying as soon as I cut it. And that's going to go in my final small one. If you don't have this many containers, you could potentially just keep this one in the bag and pour straight onto the dish. I personally like to use a spoon, gives you a little bit more control, but it's up to you. And then onto the beetroot mascarpone. So just push an edge down, so you've got somewhere to cut and you're not going to waste too much. Cut the top off, again in the bin. And then, just like we did before, pushing it all out. Cool. Alright, so before we start, I'm just going to finish off the salsa. So like I said, I gave you a couple mint leaves. We're just going to chiffonade them. Mint is a bit like basil in a sense, where it's one of those herbs you start cutting, it's going to bruise instantly. So if you don't want to cut it, well, you could use scissors, but if you don't want to use your knife, you can just tear it. If not, roll it up into a little cigar. So if you ever cut in super soft herbs, like basil and mint, roll it into a cigar, and then you can just chiffonade straight through. So we're just going nice and fine, so you get a sort of even distribution. But like I said, if you don't feel like you have to cut it, you can just rip it up. It's more of a flavour thing, more than anything. So when that's in there, we'll just give that a nice little stir. Again, just respect the mint, don't want to smash it around because it will bruise quite easily. Alright, so the key to getting this right is I've got a pot of water with my spoons in, and this is hot water. The hot water is going to heat up the spoons, and it's going to make the mascarpone come off the spoon a lot easier when it hits the plate. So I'm going to take the largest spoon I have, sort of a dessert spoon or a soup spoon or whatever massive spoon you have at home, and I'm going to sort of rocher the mascarpone. Okay, so the key with the rocher, hot spoon, use the side of the container to help, and just try and do it in one flow motion. I'm going to go in, I'm going to drag down, I'm going to try and get something that looks like the spoon. And you want to pop that straight into the middle of your plate, like that. So you end up with a sort of thing that looks a little bit like that. And dip your spoon back in the hot water for a few seconds, because now we're going to create that well. We're going to push down into the middle, and that's where the espresso syrup's going to sit. So you want this nice and hot again. Finger on the back, make sure it's not wet. Straight down, not all the way down to about there, and then flick. You end up with something that looks a little bit like that. If you've got a little bit left over, feel free to put that on if you don't want to waste it, or just eat it straight off the bat, up to you. The next thing I'm going to hit on there is the beetroot salsa. So because I'm going to put that on the side, I'm just going to flatten that edge off a little bit. It's going to give me a little bit more leeway for it to sit. So the back of the warm knife, the back of the warm spoon, just level it off just a little bit. And then you just want to start putting little bits on at a time, slowly building it up. Just try not to get too much of the liquid on there, because that will run into the centre and it will sort of clash with the espresso syrup. So again, I'm just putting on 1/2 of the beetroot mascarpone. But like I always say, yeah, feel free to go crazy, do what you want. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put the hazelnut crumb on the side of the plate. So that's going to go on this side of the plate, just so I get sort of a half clean side and half dirty side. So with this, just make sure you've got a dry spoon, otherwise the crumb is just going to stick straight to it. Oh, chopped a little bit in the middle there. But like I said as well, just really get creative. Send us your pictures. Yeah, we can have a little competition. Just picking up the bit I dropped in. Cool. Now, finally, the espresso syrup. So I'm just going to take my spoon, I'm going to pour it on, straight on. So straight onto the spoon. You don't need too much of this, and then just into the well in the middle. Coffee is one of my favourite things, so I'm going to put quite a lot on, but if you don't like it, don't go crazy. And there we have it. Beetroot mascarpone, beetroot salsa, and hazelnut crumble. We really hope you've enjoyed this week. If you have, let us know. If you haven't, let us know. Hopefully see you soon. And like always, post your photos and we'll have a look. Enjoy. Thank you.